No military routes crossed near it. No ancient relics had been found there. It was catalogued, scanned once, and quietly classified as low-value developing world. Then ignored. High Counselor Varesh of the Thaurex Dominion flicked one clawed finger through the projection. The Sol system vanished from view. Primitive bipedals, Varesh said calmly. Chemical propulsion. Fragmented governance. Atmospheric pollution. Barely spacefaring. Several council delegates emitted soft sounds of agreement. They haven't even unified, said Ambassador Kretal of the Soren Collective. Why waste observation drones? At the center of the chamber, the Concorde's ancient AI moderator spoke in a neutral tone. Consensus recorded. Earth observation suspended. Resources reallocated. And just like that, humanity vanished from the galaxy's attention. On Earth, no one noticed the moment the galaxy turned away. Humanity was too busy fighting itself. Nations argued. Economies rose and fell. Wars sparked and faded. Climate storms battered coastlines. Yet beneath the chaos, something else was happening, quiet, relentless, and very human. Adaptation. When traditional energy systems strained, humans built new ones. When resources grew scarce, they learned to recycle, refine, and innovate. When space agencies lacked funding, private coalitions formed. When governments failed, networks replaced them. Humanity did not advance cleanly. It advanced desperately. And desperation made humans creative. The first turning point came without alien witnesses. A fusion experiment in lunar orbit failed, then didn't. The reactor should have collapsed. Instead, it stabilized itself using a chaotic feedback loop no simulation had predicted. Human engineers stared at the data in silence. It shouldn't work, one whispered. But it does, another replied. That reactor design became the backbone of humanity's leap beyond its system. Cheap, scalable fusion changed everything. Shipyards bloomed in orbit. Asteroid belts became mines. Mars was terraformed not with elegance, but with brute persistence. Still, the galaxy did not look. 30 years later, the galaxy felt something. A minor trade relay on the edge of Concorde space went dark. No explosion. No distress call. Just silence. Pirates were blamed. Then a patrol fleet vanished investigating the site. At last, a Thaurex scout ship traced unusual energy signatures. Not alien but unfamiliar. The scout's commander stared at the readings. Sir, these drive emissions don't match any known species. Who is operating there? Varesh demanded when the report reached him. The answer unsettled the chamber. Humans. The name meant nothing to most of them. The Concorde dispatched a single diplomatic vessel. A courtesy, nothing more. The ship entered the Sol system and slowed near Earth. What it saw caused confusion. Hundreds of orbital structures surrounded the planet. Shipyards. Defense platforms. Massive vessels under construction. Angular, ugly, and clearly designed for war. This world was listed as pre-FTL, the diplomat said sharply. A human ship detached from orbit and approached. It did not bow. It did not broadcast submissive tones. Instead, a calm voice spoke in clear, translated speech. This is Earth Defense Command. You have entered restricted space. State your intent. The alien diplomat hesitated. We are representatives of the Galactic Concorde. Pause. Then the human voice replied, steady and cold. You ignored us for a century. The diplomat stiffened. That is not. You scanned us, the human interrupted. Judged us. Dismissed us. While we survived alone. A human figure appeared on the holographic channel. Older, scarred, wearing a simple uniform. I am Admiral Lena Ortiz, she said. And Earth is no longer low value. Behind her, the alien saw something terrifying. Human ships powering weapons. Not sleek energy beams but layered systems. Kinetic cannons. Directed plasma. Adaptive shields that reshaped themselves mid-scan. The diplomat swallowed. What do humans want? Ortiz leaned forward. To be left alone, she said softly. Then her eyes hardened. But if the galaxy insists on noticing us now, the human fleet shifted into formation. We will teach it why ignoring Earth was a mistake. Far beyond Sol, ancient sensors finally awakened. For the first time, the galaxy paid attention. And it was already too late. The news spread through the Galactic Concorde like a fracture through crystal. Humans, a species once marked as irrelevant, had deployed a fleet large enough to threaten a diplomatic vessel. Worse, their technology did not match any known evolutionary pattern. It was rough, inelegant, and terrifyingly effective. High Counselor Varesh slammed his claw onto the obsidian table. "This is impossible," he snarled. "They were centuries behind us." "They were," replied the Concord AI. "They no longer are." The assembly chamber buzzed with alien agitation. The insectal Veyron clicked their mandibles in alarm. The tall, luminous Elith whispered through color shifts along their skin. Even the machine mind delegates paused their internal calculations. Ambassador Kretal spoke carefully. "Perhaps we underestimated their rate of development." Varesh's eyes burned. "No species develops that fast without external influence." The AI's reply was calm and devastating. "No evidence of uplift detected. Human advancement appears self-driven." Silence fell. That was worse. At the edge of Concord space, a Thalrex battle group was dispatched toward Sol, not for war officially but to reassert authority. Unofficially, Varesh wanted a demonstration. The Thalrex fleet arrived with ritual precision. 20 cruisers, 3 command dreadnoughts, shields glowing like caged suns. Their weapons alone had broken civilizations. They expected panic. Instead, Earth responded with quiet efficiency. Human ships did not rush forward. They spread out, forming layered zones of defense. Orbital platforms rotated, aligning weapons with mathematical calm. Deep space mines activated, drifting like invisible ghosts. Admiral Lena Ortiz watched from Earth Defense Command. "Confirm rules of engagement," she said. A young officer swallowed. "Non-lethal unless fired upon." Ortiz nodded once. "They came to test us. Let them learn." The Thalrex commander, Warlord Karun, opened a channel. "Human vessels," he boomed. "You stand in violation of Concord law. Power down your weapons and submit to inspection." Ortiz appeared on his display. "You entered our system without permission," she replied. "You are the ones in violation." Karun laughed, a deep, guttural sound. "You mistake tolerance for weakness. Stand down." Ortiz's voice did not rise. "Last warning. Leave." Karun gestured. A single Thalrex cruiser fired. An energy lance meant to cripple, not destroy. The human response was instantaneous. A kinetic interceptor slammed into the lance mid-flight, detonating it harmlessly. Before the Thalrex could react, a human railgun round punched clean through the cruiser's shield and embedded itself in the hull, without detonating. The cruiser drifted, powerless. The battlefield froze. "How?" Karun began. Ortiz leaned closer to the camera. "We learned a long time ago," she said, "that escalation control wins wars." The Thalrex fleet withdrew. Not routed. Not destroyed. But shaken. Across the Concord, alarms flared. "This changes everything," Ambassador Kretal whispered. Varesh said nothing. His silence was far more dangerous. Humanity knew retaliation would come. So they prepared, not with conquest but with leverage. Human envoys appeared at neutral trade hubs, offering something no one expected: technology sharing limited and controlled. Fusion cores. Medical nanotech adapted for non-human biology. Agricultural systems that thrived on hostile worlds. In exchange, humans asked for one thing: recognition. Some species refused, calling humans dangerous. Others hesitated. Then the Soren Collective accepted. Their ambassador addressed the Concord. "Humans do not conquer," Kretal said. "They integrate. And they remember who treats them as equals." Trade routes shifted. Influence shifted. Power shifted. Varesh could not allow this. He authorized Operation Silent Crown, a covert strike designed to decapitate Earth's leadership and remind the galaxy who ruled it. Stealth fleets slipped toward Sol, cloaked in distortion fields older than humanity's recorded history. They never reached Earth. Human sensors detected them anyway, not through conventional scans but through pattern disruption. Tiny gravitational inconsistencies. Background radiation noise that didn't quite add up. A human analyst frowned at the data. "They're hiding," she said. "But hiding leaves fingerprints." Human hunter-killer drones swarmed through deep space, not attacking directly, mapping. When the Thalrex strike fleet finally decloaked to fire, they found themselves surrounded. Human ships emerged from hyperspace inside their formation. The battle lasted 6 minutes. No human ships were lost. The Concord reeled. Varesh stared at the casualty reports, his claws trembling. "They were supposed to be prey," he whispered. The AI spoke softly. "Humans are not prey. They are adaptive apex strategists." Across Earth, cities watched the stars with a mix of fear and pride. Humanity stood united in a way it never had before, not under one flag but under one understanding. They were not alone anymore. And they would not be dismissed again. Admiral Ortiz addressed the world. "We did not seek this," she said. "But we will finish it if we must." Beyond the galaxy's core, ancient species began to whisper a new phrase. Not fear. Respect. And for the first time in 1,000 cycles, the galaxy wondered. What happens if humans decide they no longer want peace? The galaxy had underestimated humans for a century. That mistake was about to become a catastrophe. By the time the Thalrex withdrew from Sol, the whispers in Concord corridors had grown into panic. Humans were no longer merely capable, they were dangerous. Not because they were stronger, but because they learned faster than the galaxy could anticipate. High Counselor Varesh convened an emergency session. The chamber, carved from the black crystalline caverns of Trellex Prime, thrummed with tension. Every delegate, from the liquid metal Sorin to the rigid-boned Veyron, had a single thought: how do we stop them? Varesh slammed a claw onto the table. We underestimated them. The Sol system is fortified beyond any reasonable expectation. They will resist, not because they are reckless but because they are cunning. Prepare fleets for coordinated assault. Do not underestimate their cunning again. The Concorde mobilized. Hundreds of cruisers, tens of dreadnoughts, and experimental superweapons stirred in orbit around every major system. Every fleet was ordered to blockade Sol and Earth's newly expanded colonies. At the same time, ambassadors delivered veiled threats to every nearby neutral world. Side with humanity and you are our enemy. Humanity had seen this coming. Admiral Lena Ortiz walked along the command deck of the newly commissioned ISS Valor, a flagship half a kilometer long, plated with adaptive armor layers no Concorde warship had encountered. She glanced at her bridge crew, humans and aliens alike, engineers, tacticians, and ex-diplomats. Every one of them trained to anticipate the next unpredictable move. The galaxy believes fear will stop us, Ortiz said, her voice calm but charged. Let's show them how wrong they are. The first confrontation erupted in the Beta Draconis system. A Thalrex armada, hundreds of vessels strong, attempted a strategic blockade. Their goal: cut off humanity's forward mining colonies and force Earth to surrender through economic strangulation. Human scouts detected the fleet weeks in advance. Not a single soldier panicked. Instead, humans deployed holoflux decoys, orbital mirrors to redirect enemy sensors, and stealth drones capable of mimicking gravitational anomalies. The Thalrex believed they were striking a minor supply convoy, until the real fleet emerged from hyperjump inside their formation. Ortiz gave the order: engage only if fired upon. Disable first, destroy last. What followed became known in the galaxy as the Battle of Beta Draconis. Kinetic weapons tore through Thalrex shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. Adaptive electronic warfare disrupted fleet coordination in ways alien AI found almost impossible to counter. One human destroyer, small and barely noticeable, took out an entire capital ship by exploiting a flaw in its shield harmonics, a mistake only humans would have dared to test in live combat. The aliens were stunned. They expected brutal strength. They got intelligence in motion. By the end of the battle, the Thalrex lost a fifth of their fleet, not because humans outnumbered them, they were outnumbered nearly 3-1, but because humans predicted their every move, exploited their assumptions, and adapted mid-battle faster than they could respond. Back on Earth, political reactions were mixed. Some nations feared escalation, worried that the galaxy's wrath could annihilate humanity if they pressed further. Others, more radical, argued for offensive expansion, preemptive strikes to neutralize threats before the galaxy could regroup. Ortiz convened the Joint Defense Council. The room was silent as she laid out the strategy. We are not here to conquer, she said, scanning the faces of ministers and military leaders. We are here to survive. But survival is not passive. Every time they underestimate us, we gain an advantage. We will strike first where we must. We will negotiate where we can. And when they refuse reason, we will remind them that humans do not retreat. The galaxy began to respond in kind. The Sorin Collective, initially neutral, sent diplomatic envoys, bribes and threats mingled, to coax humanity into submission. Ortiz listened to their proposals in silence. Finally she answered, voice unflinching. Your gifts are appreciated. We will keep them. Your threats are noted. We will ignore them. Humanity negotiates with logic and survives with strength. If you wish to attack, do so at your peril. For the first time, the Sorin realized humans were not just bluffing. As months passed, human ingenuity reached new heights. Space stations moved like chess pieces. Weapons were hidden in plain sight. Mining colonies could double as defensive fortresses in an instant. Humans built modular ships that could switch roles mid-battle, fighters became frigates, frigates became command platforms. When the Thalrex tried to exploit a wormhole for a surprise attack, humans had already anticipated it. Using a combination of gravitational traps and quantum signal decoys, they collapsed the wormhole just as the fleet entered, leaving dozens of alien ships stranded in deep space with no communication. Alien analysts panicked. "They predicted our physics," whispered one. "Their intuition is preternatural." Ortiz smiled when she heard this report. "They're learning," she said. "Good. Let them. It only makes our next move cleaner." The First Galactic War was not won with sheer firepower alone. It was won by human unpredictability, relentless adaptation, and the audacity to defy assumptions. Every alien that thought themselves superior discovered, too late, that humans were an entirely new category of opponent. By the end of the first campaign, humanity had secured its borders, crippled the first wave of attackers, and demonstrated that Earth's fleets were not merely defensive. They were a chess master playing on a galactic board the enemy barely understood. High Counselor Varesh convened the Concord again, pale even by Thalrex standards. "The humans, they are not just survivors. They are architects of war. And we are only beginning to understand the scope of their capabilities." Ortiz, aboard the Valor, watched the stars outside the viewport. The galaxy had finally noticed humanity. And she knew this was only the first act. The war had begun. And humanity was only getting started. The galaxy had assumed humans were weak. They had assumed humans could be bullied, ignored, or sidelined. The First War shattered that illusion. Now, as the fires of conflict spread across nearby systems, old alliances began to fracture, and the galaxy learned that underestimating humanity came at a cost far greater than any had imagined. High above a fractured moon of the Uran cluster, High Counselor Varesh convened an emergency session with the remaining Concord leaders. The chamber, a labyrinth of dark crystalline spires and glowing energy conduits, buzzed with unease. Every delegate was aware that the human fleets had not only repelled multiple Concord attacks but had also attacked first where advantageous. Varesh's voice reverberated through the chamber, sharp as a scalpel. "We have misjudged them. Entire fleets were destroyed or neutralized without a single human casualty. How is this possible? They are supposed to be primitive." The Elith delegate, a being of living light, responded with subtle fluctuations in hue. "Their ability to anticipate our tactics. It is unlike any species we have encountered. They are not just adapting, they are learning faster than we can respond." The Veyron clicked their mandibles nervously. "Our intelligence divisions report humans manipulating even our most secure communications. They are inside our planning before we finish it." Varesh's mandibles twitched. "Then we must break them. All at once. The Concord cannot survive a prolonged confrontation with such a species." But the cracks in the Concord were already evident. Several neutral or previously allied species began questioning whether continuing to fight humans was wise. The Soren Collective, once cautious observers, now offered Earth-limited trade and intelligence in exchange for a ceasefire. Their ambassador's holographic form shimmered nervously across the display. "Humans," Cretal said cautiously, "you have demonstrated power no one expected. We seek to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Join us in establishing boundaries, and we can prevent further destruction." Admiral Lena Ortiz leaned back in her chair aboard the ISS Valor, her eyes calm but calculating. "We do not seek conquest. But we will not be contained. If your goal is peace, it must be negotiated on terms that recognize human sovereignty." The Soren hesitated. They had underestimated humans and the consequences were clear. "Very well," Cretal said. "We will offer a formal recognition of your territories and technology rights. But other species may not follow our lead." Ortiz's expression hardened. "Then we prepare for them as well." The Thalrex were not so cautious. Humiliation burned in Varesh's chest like acid. To allow humans to grow unchecked was unacceptable. He dispatched the first coordinated multi-system strike in Concord history, Operation Iron Dominion. Over 50 fleets, thousands of ships, and experimental superweapons would converge on Sol simultaneously. The plan was not subtle, it was absolute. If humans survived, Varesh hoped the message would be clear. Defiance would not be tolerated. What the Thalrex did not anticipate was that humans had already considered this scenario. Through a network of spy satellites, quantum comm intercepts, and predictive algorithms, human intelligence had mapped the entire Concord strike plan before the fleets had even left their home systems. Ortiz reviewed the data, her gaze sweeping across simulated trajectories and probable attack points. Prediction is useless without action, she said. We give them the illusion of surprise, but the chessboard is ours. The first engagement began at the Gliese Rift, a system of gas giants and asteroid belts ideal for ambushes. Human fleets, smaller but faster and highly adaptive, waited within gravitational pockets that neutralized the Thaurex sensor range. The battle opened with a Thaurex dreadnought firing at what appeared to be empty space. A moment later, human kinetic interceptors ripped through its shields from an angle the aliens had assumed impossible. Within minutes, a dozen ships were crippled or captured, not destroyed, captured to study human tactics firsthand. Varesh, observing from his flagship, bared his teeth in disbelief. They anticipated our maneuvers. Entire fleets trapped before they even arrived. Ortiz allowed the Thaurex a single line of communication. You may consider this a warning, she said, voice steady. Underestimating humans is no longer an option. The shockwaves of the battle echoed throughout the galaxy. Allies of the Concord began to reconsider their loyalties. Some, fearful of being on the losing side, quietly opened communications with Earth. Others, emboldened by greed or ambition, sought to exploit the chaos. But even they discovered that humans were everywhere and nowhere at once. Mining colonies doubled as missile batteries. Asteroid belts became traps. Supply convoys carried both cargo and hidden weapons systems. In every corner, humans were prepared. Their cunning, adaptability, and unconventional tactics rendered conventional galactic warfare almost obsolete. Ortiz coordinated simultaneous strikes across multiple sectors. Each engagement was surgical. Each victory was calculated not just to destroy fleets, but to reshape perceptions. The message was clear: humanity would survive at any cost, and every attack would be met with precision, innovation, and ruthless efficiency. Within the Concord, fractures deepened. Elith and Soren advocates pushed for negotiation, while Veyron and Thaurex hardliners demanded total annihilation of humans. The Assembly could not agree, and internal conflict weakened their ability to act as a unified force. Varesh seethed. They are not just defying us, they are breaking us from within. Ortiz, observing the disarray through spies, allowed herself a rare smile. Divide, anticipate, and survive, she said. The galaxy assumes we are simple. That assumption is their greatest mistake. By the end of the campaign, humans had not only defended Sol but expanded their influence into neighboring systems. Trade routes shifted, former Concord territories quietly realigned, and the galaxy realized something terrifying. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. It was a power to be reckoned with. Yet Ortiz knew the war had only begun. The Concord would not surrender easily, and other species, once hesitant, were beginning to see humans as a threat, or a prize. As she gazed at the stars beyond the Valor, she whispered to her crew, almost to herself, "The galaxy will learn. And when they do, they will understand exactly why they never should have ignored Earth." The galaxy had begun to notice humans, but it had not yet realized the full scope of their capabilities. The first wars had been defensive, tactical. Now humanity moved on the offensive, not out of arrogance but necessity. Every delay allowed the Concord to regroup, and humans had learned the hard way: the galaxy would not give them mercy. Admiral Lena Ortiz stood on the bridge of the ISS Valor, watching the display of interstellar highways and trade routes. The Concord's forces were dispersed, recovering from the devastating ambushes humans had executed in Part 4. Ortiz spoke calmly to her officers. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to secure survival. But the galaxy must understand, when humans strike, we strike decisively." Her plan was audacious. Instead of waiting for the Concord fleets to approach, humans would target their critical infrastructure across multiple systems simultaneously. Supply depots, hyperjump gates, energy relays, all would be neutralized with surgical precision, rendering the Concord unable to mount an organized retaliation. The first operation, dubbed Project Iron Web, began in the Hestia Expanse. Small, fast human strike teams infiltrated deep space. Their ships, disguised as cargo vessels, moved with perfect timing and coordination. In the early hours, Concord sensors detected nothing unusual. Then the attack began. Kinetic torpedoes erupted along relay stations, disabling hyperspace corridors. Quantum disruptors shut down communications between fleets. Concord convoys, moving to reinforce distant sectors, suddenly found themselves isolated, blind, and vulnerable. Human fighter squadrons executed precision strikes on military outposts. They did not destroy indiscriminately, they immobilized, captured, and reprogrammed. Every move was designed not just to win, but to teach the galaxy that humans were not only capable but intelligent, adaptable, and ruthless when necessary. Within days, several Concord sectors were cut off from command. Panic rippled through alien governments. High Counselor Varesh's fury was almost tangible across HoloLink communications. "They strike everywhere at once," he snarled, claws clicking on the command table. "They are a virus spreading faster than we can contain. Prepare countermeasures." But countermeasures proved ineffective. Humans had anticipated nearly every response. When fleets attempted to regroup, they encountered gravitational traps, ambush zones, and adaptive shields configured specifically to exploit alien weaknesses. It was as if the humans could read the galaxy's playbook before it was even written. Ortiz allowed the Thaurex a single message, relayed through every compromised communication channel. "High Counselor Varesh, your fleets are in disarray. Withdraw or we will take the next step. Humans do not negotiate from fear, they negotiate from strength. Choose wisely." The message was met with silence, and then confusion. Varesh had no clear answer. His fleets, disoriented and fragmented, were unable to mount a coherent response. Meanwhile, human diplomacy operated in parallel with their military offensive. Neutral species, impressed and terrified by humanity's efficiency, began approaching Earth voluntarily. The Soren Collective formally aligned with humans, offering intelligence networks and technological cooperation. Even some Thaurex factions, disillusioned with Varesh's aggressive policies, secretly contacted human envoys. One such faction offered to supply human forces with experimental weaponry in exchange for safe passage and recognition of autonomy after the conflict. Ortiz saw the opportunity. "Every alliance we build now strengthens our position for the next stage. Humans survive not just with weapons, they survive by leveraging intelligence, diplomacy, and adaptability all at once." The next major strike came in the Etherian cluster, a hub of energy production critical to the Concord War effort. Humans deployed modular ships capable of rapidly changing roles. Fighters became frigates became command centers, and destroyers acted as mobile shields for orbital platforms. Concord forces, confident in superior numbers, attacked head-on. What they encountered instead was human unpredictability. Kinetic weapons fired in synchronized bursts, shields shifted dynamically, and electronic warfare scrambled targeting systems in real time. One human engineer, observing the battle from the Valor, whispered to a colleague, "They think in grids. Humans think in waves. They can't predict the curves." By the end of the battle, the Concorde had lost nearly a quarter of its deployed fleet in the cluster. The humans suffered minor damage but no strategic losses. Entire supply lines were cut and several Concorde leaders were captured alive, carefully preserved to study human tactics firsthand. Across the galaxy, the perception of humanity transformed. No longer dismissed as weak, primitive, or irrelevant, humans were now the apex strategist of the known galaxy. Every species that had ignored Earth, or worse, attempted to attack it, was forced to reassess their assumptions. The war was far from over, but the momentum had shifted decisively. Humans were not just defending their homeworld, they were demonstrating that underestimation came at a fatal cost. Ortiz addressed the fleet in a rare moment of reflection. "We do not seek conquest, but the galaxy must understand one truth," she said. "Humans survive because we adapt, because we learn, and because we refuse to be underestimated. Remember this, Earth was ignored until it became a threat." Her voice carried across comms channels to every vessel under human command. For the first time, many of the younger recruits realized the full scale of what humanity was capable of, not just military prowess but strategic genius, resilience, and indomitable spirit. The galaxy had underestimated humans. That mistake would cost them everything if they tried again. And as the stars stretched endlessly before the human fleet, Ortiz smiled grimly. This is only the beginning. The galaxy had learned a lesson too late. Humans were not to be underestimated. They adapted, they struck with precision, and they exploited every weakness with ruthless intelligence. But even as humanity's influence spread, the Concorde refused to surrender. High Counselor Varesh, humiliated and desperate, prepared the ultimate countermeasure, a strike designed to crush humanity in a single, decisive blow. Varesh's plan, codenamed Project Annihilus, involved a coordinated strike across multiple human-controlled systems. Entire fleets would converge on Sol, carrying new experimental weapons designed to pierce human defenses, disrupt adaptive shields, and obliterate orbital infrastructure. For the first time, the Concorde deployed a weapon specifically engineered to eliminate humans before they could respond. A gravity singularity bomb, a device capable of collapsing a planet into a miniature black hole. But the humans had anticipated escalation. Admiral Lena Ortiz had access to every fragment of intelligence, every historical precedent, and every conceivable calculation of enemy behavior. Using quantum predictive algorithms, she had already mapped Project Annihilus before the fleets left Concord space. Her fleet was ready, not to defend but to turn the attack into opportunity. The first engagement occurred near the Epsilon Eridani system, where Concord forces attempted to cut off the human supply chain. At first glance, it appeared that humans were cornered. Fleets seemed outnumbered, orbital platforms positioned for defense, and the singularity bomb en route. But humans thrived on complexity. Ortiz issued her command. Activate Phase 1, Ghost Web. Across multiple star systems, human ships scattered in patterns designed to mimic confusion. The Thaurex, confident in their numbers and technology, advanced. But every human vessel carried microdrones capable of disabling critical systems without detection. Concord weapons misfired, hyperjump gates became traps, and fleets attempting to intercept were rerouted into asteroid fields laced with automated railguns. The Singularity bomb arrived in orbit over Sol. For a moment it seemed all was lost. But human engineers had already prepared a countermeasure. Using a combination of gravitational field projectors and precise kinetic strikes, the bomb was displaced into deep space, detonating harmlessly far from Earth. Ortiz stood calmly on the bridge of the ISS Valor. They thought they could end us in one strike, she said. They were wrong. Always wrong. The Concord fleets were forced to retreat, piecemeal and disorganized. Every attempt to regroup was met with precision human counterattacks. Humans had not just learned from the previous battles, they had redefined the rules of engagement. Ships adapted mid-battle, energy shields reconfigured dynamically, and AI-assisted weapons recalculated firing solutions faster than Concord ships could track. Even Varesh's most trusted commanders began to question his judgment. They anticipate everything, whispered one Veyron admiral. Every ambush, every strike. They are not merely defending, they are orchestrating the war itself. Ortiz used the chaos to execute the next phase, Project Apex. Humans struck the Concord not just physically but psychologically. Entire fleets were captured and repurposed. Supply chains were disrupted so thoroughly that the Concord faced shortages and confusion in every sector. Propaganda broadcasts displayed human victories across neutral worlds, demonstrating a level of control and strategy no other species had ever achieved. In one daring maneuver, humans deployed a quantum entanglement network to predict and manipulate fleet movements in real time. Concord commanders found themselves trapped in a mental maze, every decision countered before it was made. As the Concord faltered, alien politics fractured. The Soren Collective openly aligned with humanity, offering both intelligence and military support. Other factions, previously loyal to Varesh, quietly defected or abandoned positions. The galaxy began to see the humans not as rebels or primitives, but as a new apex power. Ortiz convened a council aboard the Valor, including human diplomats, military strategists, and allied alien representatives. The galaxy will attempt to resist us, she said, voice steady, but resistance is futile if it is built on ignorance. Humans do not seek destruction for its own sake, but we will not allow our survival to be questioned. We win because we adapt, because we innovate, and because we refuse to be underestimated. Her words carried weight beyond the bridge. They became the rallying cry for an entire species. The final engagement of this turning point occurred in the Luton cluster. Varesh, desperate and enraged, committed the remaining Concord superweapons. Humans had anticipated this too. Using rapid hyperjump maneuvers, stealth technologies, and coordinated ambush tactics, they neutralized superweapons before they could fire. Entire Concord command structures were dismantled, with only fragments surviving to retreat. Ortiz, standing on the observation deck of the Valor, looked out at the carnage with quiet satisfaction. We are not tyrants. We are survivors. And now the galaxy has learned the cost of ignoring us. From this moment, human supremacy was no longer theoretical. They had proven that their intelligence, adaptability, and cunning could outmatch even the most powerful galactic coalition. Varesh, humiliated and defeated, had no choice but to retreat to Concord space. The galaxy's power balance had shifted irrevocably. Humans were no longer a threat to be contained, they were a force to be reckoned with. And as Ortiz issued orders to consolidate their gains, she whispered to her crew. The galaxy assumed we were weak. They were wrong. And now, they will never make that mistake again. The galaxy had changed forever. Humans were no longer a peripheral species to be ignored or dismissed. They were the apex power, the force that reshaped interstellar politics, warfare, and diplomacy. After decades of relentless adaptation, tactical brilliance, and unprecedented ingenuity, humanity stood at the summit, and the remnants of the Galactic Concord struggled to comprehend what had happened. Admiral Lena Ortiz stood on the bridge of the ISS Valor, now the flagship of the largest human-led fleet in history. Behind her, human engineers, diplomats, and alien allies worked in seamless coordination, a living embodiment of what the galaxy had once called primitive. The stars outside shimmered with the activity of human-controlled systems, fortified colonies, and strategic outposts, every one a testament to endurance and cunning. "Status report," Ortiz commanded. Her chief tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Reena Patel, responded crisply. "All fleets operational, Admiral. Concord remnants are scattered across multiple sectors. Supply lines severed. Communications isolated. Neutral factions are requesting formal alliances. Humans now control 15 key systems and 25 independent sectors." Ortiz nodded. "Good. Begin consolidation and integration. Humanity will not just survive, we will define the future of this galaxy." High Counselor Varesh, once the feared leader of the Thalrex Dominion, watched holographic projections of human fleets encircling Concord space. His claws trembled in frustration. How did they achieve this? An aide, trembling, whispered, "Admiral Ortiz anticipated every move, sir. Every strategy, every countermeasure. Their intelligence surpasses ours. Even our most advanced commanders cannot outthink them." Varesh's eyes burned with rage. "Then, if we cannot outthink them, we must." But the voice of reason, buried deep in the council, interrupted. "High Counselor," said the Elith delegate, "resistance is now suicidal. Humanity has proven itself unstoppable. Continuing conflict will only accelerate the destruction of the Concord." For the first time, Varesh was silent. Back in human territory, Ortiz convened a historic summit. Humans and allied alien factions gathered on the surface of Mars, in the newly established Martian Alliance Hall. Representatives from the Soren Collective, the renegade Thalrex faction, and several neutral systems came to witness the unprecedented rise of humanity. Ortiz addressed the assembly, her tone firm but measured. "The galaxy once ignored Earth. They assumed we were weak. They assumed our intelligence was limited. They assumed our resilience was finite. They were wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We survived every attack, adapted to every threat, and demonstrated that humanity cannot be underestimated. Today we do not conquer, we unify. We offer alliance, protection, and cooperation. But make no mistake, anyone who threatens humanity will face consequences no one can endure." The alien delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Even those who had once fought humans now realized the truth. The species they had dismissed had achieved supremacy through intellect, adaptability, and relentless resolve. Humanity's military power was unrivaled. Ships capable of hyperjump ambushes, adaptive energy shields, and kinetic weapons precision-targeted across star systems made direct assault on human territories virtually impossible. But it was not brute strength alone that established dominance. It was strategy, foresight, and unity. In orbit over Jupiter, a massive human shipyard operated with astonishing efficiency, building vessels for both defense and humanitarian purposes. Mining colonies on Ceres, Ganymede, and Titan supplied energy and raw materials not just for Earth, but for allied worlds. Humanity had proven it could project power and provide stability, something the galaxy had long assumed only advanced species could do. Ortiz oversaw the final phase of Operation Apex Ascendant, a coordinated campaign to stabilize former Concord sectors. Human fleets, working in concert with allied alien forces, moved systematically to neutralize rogue elements, secure trade routes, and integrate former enemy systems into a new galactic order. The final confrontation came near the Andromeda Gate, where the remaining Thalrex loyalists attempted a desperate strike. Thousands of ships surged forward in a final attempt to retake territory. But humans anticipated even this last gambit. The Valor led a fleet that executed a maneuver never before seen in galactic history. Using simultaneous hyperspace jumps and quantum-entangled decoys, human ships emerged inside the enemy formation, outflanking and isolating the attackers before they could fire a single shot. Kinetic and plasma weapons tore through the Loyalist fleet with devastating efficiency. Admiral Ortiz addressed the enemy command one final time. "You have gambled against humans. You have lost. Surrender now and your lives will be spared. Resist and you will vanish." The Thaurex commander's response was hollow. His forces had no option. One by one, the remaining Concord fleets capitulated. Humanity had achieved total supremacy. The aftermath was remarkable. Formerly hostile worlds now sought alliances with Earth. Trade and research flourished under human guidance, introducing innovations that transformed galactic society. Adaptive shields, fusion technology, and human-led logistics became standards across civilizations. Humanity's combination of intelligence, adaptability, and moral authority reshaped interstellar relations. Ortiz, gazing at the stars from the Bridge of the Valor, reflected on the journey. From a planet ignored and dismissed, humanity had risen to the apex of the galaxy. Not through fear, not through tyranny, but through cunning, resilience, and vision. She turned to her crew and smiled. The galaxy once thought us weak. They thought us insignificant. They thought they could ignore us. They were wrong. Earth is no longer a backwater. Humanity is the measure of what is possible. A young officer asked quietly, "Admiral, what now?" Ortiz looked toward the distant stars, alive with human fleets and thriving colonies. "Now," she said, "we make sure the galaxy never forgets what it means to underestimate humans again." Earth was ignored, until it became a threat. Now the threat was undeniable. Humanity had claimed its place not just among the stars, but at the pinnacle of galactic power. Through intelligence, strategy, adaptability, and relentless perseverance, humans had proven that even a species once considered primitive could rise to supremacy. And the galaxy would remember.